I'm doing a gate repair today. The problem is in the latch mechanism here. Check this out. Those are some beauties right there. I mean, I'm no PhD, but I don't think it's supposed to do that. There are 4 welds on this latch mechanism. 2 of them are completely loose, but at least it's being held together by these beauties. So the plan is to grind those 2 out on the left completely and re-weld them, and then grind and re-weld the ones on the right. That way everything will still be lined up properly. Seems like the way to go about it.
I'm not 100% sure, but those sure do look like 6013 downhill welds. I like 6011 way better than 6013 for stuff like this.
Started out using a hard rock, 1/4 inch thick hard rock, then shifted gears to a zip wheel to get in there tight and remove all the weld. Those cross pieces are only 11 gauge steel. It's hard to fathom how somebody could not at least nip them and not get some penetration. I'm using a machine that's called a MIG 180. A lot of people maybe aren't aware that it also stick welds, and I'm running it off a 115 volt extension cord. 20 amp breaker though. Here in the USA, we're not that accustomed to seeing MMA. It means manual metal arc or stick welding. I'm going to set the amperage here to 75 amps because I'll be using a 332 6011. 6011s will run off all polarities, but I'm setting it to electrode positive for this job. 6011s also run well downhill. A friend of mine's helping me today, and he brought over these old Lincoln 6011s here. I don't know how old, but at least 20 years old. Years ago, I did a favor for an elderly lady and welded something on her front porch, and I really wished I had some of these rods. I'll tell that story one day. For this weld, I'm welding uphill. I am long arcing just a little bit here. There are a lot of techniques I could use here, straight up, whip and pause, straight up and down, but I'm just trying to make tiny little circles, kind of trace the front of the puddle, trying to burn in good. And I could tell that was kind of overkill. This is only 11 gauge steel here on these sideways members, so I'm going to weld the rest of them downhill.
6011 is almost like a 6010. Anywhere that you would like to use a 6010, usually a 6011 is almost as good. And the great thing about it is that a lot of these small inverter machines, like the one I'm running today, which is primarily a MIG machine, but it will stick weld, don't like to run 6010, but they will run 6011. And they'll run 332 6011 even better.
I bumped the amperage up just a little bit to 83 amps for the downhill welds. I think you can see them burning in pretty good there. There's no doubt I'm getting penetration. These are not really what you'd call structural welds, but any weld needs to hold for the intended purpose. These welds just need to be burned in a little bit instead of those cold caterpillars that were on there. Now that those 2 welds are done, we'll grind out the other 2. Take a little bit different approach, just trying to cut this last one out kind of like a pie wedge. It only took a minute. I think we almost could have popped it out with a chisel. Now that the whole thing is locked in place again, we'll weld both of those downhill. There are times when downhill is just the ticket. I would not weld downhill with a 6013 or a 7018, but with 6011 or a 6010, where something doesn't really require a ton of strength, it's just a quick way to get the job done. I was using kind of a whip and pause technique on the rest of the welds. I'm just going to kind of drag this one with a just slight oscillation, just to kind of play the light a little bit so I can see where I'm going. There's a lot of different ways to skin a cat. And this one is almost done. We'll hit it with a wire wheel real quick. Take a quick look at it. Like someone once said, it might shake a little bit, but it won't fall off.
Here's a little quick test that I did just for the doubters out there who think you should never weld downhill on anything ever, 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 even though there's thousands of miles of pipeline welded downhill with 6010.
I mocked up a little downhill weld using approximately the same thickness metals, bending it over here and then whooping on it a little bit. I think it'll hang in there a while. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this video. My online store is at weldmonger.com. That's how I pay for these videos. We'll see you next time.